Hello, my nerdy Nawg-Dawgs. This is week 9, and this is your Tuesday math lesson. Now, on Monday in our live Zoom, we talked about area, we talked about perimeter, and we're closing up on that section. However, we did touch on converting units of measurement. And this is important. This is math that you will use every day. So it's going to be a quick lesson this week, but I want you to be familiar with it. I'm not necessarily looking for mastery. I'm looking for understanding. Okay, so do try for it. Give it your best shot. And if we're not quite there, we're still struggling with it a bit, that's okay. As long as we know how to use the conversion charts, that's really what's important here, okay? If you know how to read them, if you can understand what it's asking you to do, then I think you'll be in great shape, my friends. So let's just peek at this, and this is similar, or this is exactly the same problem we did in our live group, but I want to really touch on how the charts work, okay? So earlier on Monday, we read this problem. 55 meters is how many centimeters? So this is a metric system. This is what the rest of the world uses to measure. We use a customary system. This is the metric system, and you'll see it creates a really nice visual in your head if you can recall this chart, and it makes for really easy math. So in this case, we're going from meters to centimeters. So if we look at this first upper chart, that means we're starting with this standard unit, and we're going to smaller unit of measurements, centimeters. So how I want you to think about this is on our number chart. If we were doing a number line, right? If this was a number line, and this were 1 meter, and this were 2 meter, think back to when we were doing our number line with tenths, yes, I'm lisping, and hundredths, right? In between a tenth, there were 10 ticks that represented the hundredths. This is the same sort of thing. In between meters, there are 100 tick, 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 centimeters. And if I were to go to this very last tick before I got to 2 meters, it would actually be 99 centimeters. Okay, so that's what I want you visualizing. Now the easy chart, or something I'm hoping will stay with you in your head, is this upper chart. And if you take your standard unit that you're going to be using, in this case meters, and you want to go to the centimeters, you are multiplying that meter measurement by 100. Again, why the metric system makes things so easy, because it is dealing in hundreds, right? Hundreds, thousands, tens. So then I look at my 55 meters, and if I multiply 55 meters times 100 centimeters, we can use our zero math trick. Shabam, shabam, hold on to those for later. 1 times 55 gives me 55, add back in my zeros, and I have 5,500 centimeters. Okay, so this blue chart down below is really handy, but you're not guaranteed that you will always have that, and therefore this visualization in slow motion should help you to kind of visualize what it is you're doing in terms of moving upper or lower in terms of units of measurement, okay? So let's do one more of those really quickly, because we know Math and Focus isn't going to be satisfied with easy. However, this is really great review, because in just a moment we're going to go through everything we know about fractions and using these charts. So here in this case, they've started with the greatest unit of measurement, and that's kilometers or kilometers. So we're going kilometers down to meters, which means we're going to multiply however many kilometers we have by 1,000 to make it to meters. So 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters. Okay, But Math and Focus is asking us about 3/4 of 1 kilometer. Ay, ay, ay. It's okay. We need to practice and review our fractions. So we can think of this 1 kilometer as the same as 4/4 or 4/4, right? So some of you might be going, ding, ding, ding. I see something already, Miss Nagdev. Couldn't we just divide this 1,000 by fourths to tell us the value of 1/4? Yeah, but I want to show people who haven't made that connection yet what the math of it looks like. Okay, so if we're solving for 3/4 of a kilometer, we could actually say 3/4 times 1,000, right? And that should get me down to meters. What do you recall about multiplying a whole number, 1,000, by a fraction, 3/4? It can be done. We know our math. Are you ready? Are you ready for it? Here we go. Bam! Put it over a 1. Yeah, that's how it's done. All of a sudden, I have a fraction. 3/4 times 1,000 over 1. Easy peasy math, people. So then I have 3 times 1,000 gives me 3,000. And that all goes over 4 times 1, which gives me 4. 3,000 over 4. Oh my gosh, please tell me you haven't forgotten the Holy Grail of fractions. What is it, people? The Holy Grail of fractions means that this, not that blue screen, that fraction bar is the same as saying 3,000 divided by 4. Let's do the math, people. We've got this. 3,000 divided by 4. Will 4 go into 3? No. But will 4 go into 30? Yes, it will. It'll go in 7 times. 7 times 4 is 28. Doing my long division here, right? 28 from 30 gives me 2 left over. 4 will not divide into 2, but I have a dividend that I can bring down my 0. 20 divided by 4. 4 will go in 5 times, and that gives me 20. Nothing left over. Will 4 go into that 0? No, Nawg-Dawg, it will not. But there's still another 0 in my dividend. I can bring that down. Will 4 go into 2 zeros? No, it won't. However, every dividend that I'm dividing by has to have an answer up above it. So I need to put my 0 up there telling us that 4 will not divide into 2 zeros. My final answer is 750. What is that the answer to? There are 750 meters in 3/4 of a kilometer. Okay. That's a bit more challenging. I'm not going to require that you do fractions in your math assignment that follows. So on the fraction ones, you big level thinkers who are already clicking, solve for it. If that's too much of a challenge, go back to the problem we did before. I just want to see that you can use the chart for conversions. Okay, so let's move to the next problem, another fraction. I'm going to skip past that. Now we're talking about the customary units of length. This is how we measure things in the United States. We need to know it. To be honest, I could not solve for it without looking at that chart. I don't expect you to memorize this. I expect you to know how to use the chart. That's what's important here. So what do we use? What things would we measure? If I am driving to my grandmother's house, I'm not going to measure that in inches. I'm not going to get out and use my yardstick and measure that in yards. I'm going to measure that in miles. In the United States, we don't use kilometers, we use miles. So how many miles to grandmother's house? Now, if Kai was going to measure his 3D object from our math challenge last week, he would likely measure that in inches using his measuring device there, his measuring tape. So he would use the inches for that. before we were talking about what is the distance to the school. Now, if I were Carolina or Levi, it is not likely they're going to measure in inches or feet to get to school. They're going to hop in a car and they're going to measure by miles. Even yards would be too far for them. Justin Rodriguez lives close to the school. He might get in a car and measure it by mile. If he chose to walk it, could he measure it by feet? Let's say he's just about a mile. Yeah, he could if he uses our conversion chart, okay? So let's kind of have a look at that and how we would use this chart. If we're talking about 12 feet, 12 feet, if we look at our chart to the left, 1 foot, so let me write that down here, 1 foot is equal to 12 inches, okay? So if I have 12 feet, and I'm trying to figure out how many inches that is, I could say if 1 foot is 12 inches, couldn't I do 12 times 12? So 12 feet times 12 inches? Yeah, if I were to do that math, that would mean that there are 144 inches within 12 feet, okay? Hang on to that. This is the type of conversions I want you to be able to do. The fractions are higher level. Should you know how to do it? Yeah, keep working toward it. What I want you to be able to do after today's lesson is the basic conversions using the charts, okay? So let's see, I have another one here. There we go. Let me erase my chicken scratch. Now, if we're going from 35 feet to yards, let's again put that up there. I see that 1 yard, so 1 yard is equivalent to 3 feet. Okay, so how do I solve for this? Couldn't I then say, well, 35 feet divided by 3 yards? Because if I know that 1 yard has 3 feet inside it, I want to find out if I divide that 35 by yards, how many feet total. Does that make sense? So if I did the math of that, let's see, this is going to be a tricky one. I'm not going to do all my long division because I did solve previously. That would give me 11. But there's some left over. It actually has a remainder of 2. So what does that remainder mean? If I was starting in feet, that remainder is in feet because I was trying to divide it to solve for how many total yards. That remainder means there's not enough feet to make 1 yard. So 35 feet into yards would be 11 yards with 2 feet left over, okay? I'm hoping this makes sense. If not, I'm sure you will send me a chat, right? Because that's the easiest way to share with me that you need help. What if we're going from 79 inches to feet? Okay, I always like to write down what one is to the other so that we can solve. So in this case, 1 foot is equal to 12 inches, right? In this case, it's asking us about 79 inches. So can't I just solve 79 inches divided by 12 inches will tell me how many feet there are? Yeah, that's the math that you can do. So 79 divided by 12. Let's see, quick math. 79 divided by 12 gives me 6. With I think 5 left over. So let's do 6 times 12. Gives me 72. Gives me 7 left. Is that right? Yep, 7 left over. 12 can't go into 7. Nothing else to bring down. So that gives me a remainder of 7. So what that means is there are 6 feet with 7 inches left over. Okay, I'm hoping that conversion makes sense. That's what I'm hoping that you can do by using these charts. If you want to try for some of the fractions that are on there, you can do that. Be my guest. Okay, so your homework today, this is directly from your Let's Practice and the homework. I want to see that you can use the charts to solve. In this case, we know that 1 meter, looking at this chart here, is equal to 100 centimeters. Therefore, 2 meters should be equal to what? Well, you're just going to do 2 times 100, 200 centimeters. Guess what? You can solve for the next one, my friend. Let's look at kilometers to meters. So what they're telling us in the chart up above is, in the chart right here, is that 1 kilometer, 1 kilometer is equal to 100 meters. 1,000 meters. So then 2 kilometers is equal to what? What? Don't you know? Yeah, 2,000 kilometers. You should be able to answer for that. That is part of your homework, my friends. If you can use the chart, you should be able to solve. There are fractions on. I'm repeating, repeat, repeat, repeat. If you are struggling with how to solve for the fractions, that's okay. I just need you to be familiar with how to use the chart. Save the fractions for later. We'll work on that together. Here's number 3, 4, 5, directly from your homework. Going 4 feet to inches, we know that 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. So what do? You would multiply 4 feet times 12 inches, right? Definitely math you guys can do. So 12 times 4 should give you the answer there. What about yards to feet? We know that 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. Anything clicking yet? So if I have to solve for 9 yards, how many feet is in there? Well, can't I just divide that 9 by the 3 to tell me how many feet? And then again, 8 miles to going to feet, that means I'm going here. Oh, this is a little bit trickier. 1 mile is equal, so if I do 1 mile, it's equal to 5,280 feet. So then what do you do to solve for 8 miles? Any ideas? Anyone? 8 times 5,280 should give you the answer to solve for that. Okay, so my nerdy Nawg-Dawgs, I think you have some work to do. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for you guys to be able to solve and use the chart. These are other charts I want you to be familiar with. We're not going to do any work with it right now. Some of you higher level thinkers might want to check for it because we do have some stuff in our Math and Focus workbook that you could challenge yourself with. On the left, we have what we call Gallon Man. And some people like to use him as a visual to remember. For me, if I'm trying to remember this stuff without having a visual, it's easier for me to remember this big G. And we call that big G the gallon. Inside 1 gallon, there are 4 Qs or 4 quarts. Inside each quart is 2 pints. Inside each pint is 2 cups. So if I were to ask you how many pints within 1 gallon, you could add up all of the P's. And in this case, 2, 4, 6, 8, there are 8 pints in 1 gallon. How many cups in 1 gallon? Go, go, go team, go. You could count them all up, or you could think that each quart has 4 cups. Right? And then there's 4 quarts. So hopefully these charts are something you just become familiar with. You will touch on some of this again in 5th grade. And since we are doing internet online learning, it's kind of hard to instruct on this sort of stuff outside of the classroom. So my goal for you is that you are familiar with how to use the chart, okay? We can work on solving with the fractions in there at a later time. For now, show me that you can use the chart to solve for basic conversions. Okay, Nerdy Nagdogs, your homework is the Let's Practice. It's page 163, 164, and if you really want to challenge yourself, you can do 165. I'm going to make a change to my agenda. 165 will not be required, but some of you who really need a challenge, go for it, guys. Check it out. Just at least try for it and see if you can solve. On page 163 and 164, there are a couple fractions. I suggest you try it. Again, I'm not looking for you to go crazy, send me all kinds of chats, pulling out your hair. I can't do the fraction conversions. That's okay. Can you read the chart? Can you solve using the chart? Great. Try for the fraction. If you don't get it, there's always tomorrow, Nerdy Nagdogs. That is your mini lesson for Tuesday. Give it your best shot. You guys got this. I have faith in you.